Hi, this is Shui with a review of the Under Armour Joel Embiid first signature, Under Armour Embiid 1. The first glance at this shoe, the impression I got was maybe it's because of this mesh material that's used with a little bit of fuse and over-exaggerated mesh or engineered mesh on top. Just reminded me, also it's not exactly a low cut, it's not exactly a mid cut, it's somewhere, it's an in-betweener. It reminded me a lot of the Kyrie ones. But I guess design's always stolen, or someone took some ounce of inspiration from some other design in the past. Everything is copied or stolen in some way, shape, or form. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, so I will not point fingers into designs that somewhat reminds me of something in the past. Anyway, the Embiid one, Joel Embiid has not exactly been one of my favorite players. He is certainly a force to be reckoned with, but definitely not a leader that carries a team. He seems to be a bit of a whiner. He seems to be unable to step up at the right moments, and when he got Al Horford, who just had his way with him and then neutralized him in the previous season, over to team up with him and completely neutralize Horford while he was in the same team, that just speaks volumes about his character. Well, anyway, he's always injured, so maybe the shoes are designed to help him get less injured, perhaps. Well, first of all, this shoe, I think the standout feature is the outsole pattern that tells a story that reminds me of the movie that Giannis Antetokounmpo loves, and he actually had his shoes with the name Coming to America concept in it, but this is more like Coming to America in terms of the map that tells a story. This is the map of Africa, and there are names of the places that's near and dear to him. Some of the names I will not dare pronounce. Johannesburg is not a problem, and the other two, well, I believe he is from Cameroon or somewhere near there, and he traveled to this part of the U.S. I don't know exactly what part of the map of the U.S. this is supposed to represent, or maybe this isn't a map and they just had the names written there like Philadelphia and Kansas. But anyway, it's telling a story, and this is the outsole groove is sort of like the contours that's shown on maps, right? The rubber material is very soft. The grooves are thick and deep, so that is good. The traction, this little toe area, it kind of reminded me of the Anatomics, or rather the Spawn Low 2 that was recently released. I love the traction pattern and the design of the Spawn Low 2, but it turns out that had a bit of a flowy groove that really let you slip all over the floor once the traction gets broken in a little bit. So it was a very dangerous shoe. Thankfully, they don't have that flowy opening. It rather has a core or a pivot point that radiates outward. So this is certainly an improvement from that. Same here, but we've seen similar patterns like this that sometimes that don't work. For now, because at the first go, when you take it out of the box and you wear it, if you wear it on a clean court, they are so sticky. They're so sticky. So on clean courts, they're amazing. On dusty courts, it's gonna pick up a bit of a dust, but as you can tell, the grooves are pretty deep and the blades are pretty flexible, so dust should not be a problem. Still, it's not the guaranteed traction anywhere, anytime that we've had from the Curry 4. So Curry 4 is always the standard bearer in terms of Under Armour shoes. They had a beautiful design and the traction was amazing. The cushioning was minimal, but that's what Curry wants. So even though there's a Curry 7, the Embiid 1 has a lot better cushioning than the 7th signature model for Stephen Curry. But that's what the player wants. That's what he gets. It's just how it works. The outrigger is amazing. The traction and the grooves, or the separated grooves for the outsole, make sure there's a lot more flex grooves to enable freedom of movement. At the same time, the outriggers are great for Curry 4s. Speaking of outriggers, there's not much of that in the Embiid 1. So if you're very sensitive about rolling your ankle a little bit, it's not LeBron 15 bad, but it's not that great either. They don't have a prominent outrigger. The midfoot is not entirely wide. The outsole is not, the base is not crazy wide, so you will feel that sensation of slowly moving to dangerous territory when you're stopping sideways a little bit or moving sideways a little bit. So be careful of that. If you have weak ankles and you tend to injure yourself that way a little bit too often, then yeah, then you need proper outriggers. If not, if you really want this, make sure you wear an ankle brace or take yourself really well with kinesio tape or whatnot. The ankle, speaking of which, the padding is great. It's soft. It wraps you all around. That's good, and there's no chafing anywhere. Curry 7 had a very sharp edge here that kind of like cut into you unless you were really thick socks or a thick ankle brace. So that was a little bit disappointing. So this is an improvement from Curry 7. The heel cup is there, and the heel, some might complain of a heel slip because it does not entirely, it's not really, it does not hug you. It's not a clutching type of heel counter or a heel cup, so some might have a bit of an issue with that. It's not exactly the most rigid, hard bit there, and there's no external heel counter, so if you're sensitive about that, there's something you should consider. It's not exactly breathable, although you see this mesh that seems like it's gonna be able to let some steam out. They have a full length, they have an additional inner booty, a neoprene inner booty. On top of that, they have this engineered mesh fused material, so it can get a bit hot inside. It's not exactly breathable. The tongue is not entirely airy either, so breathability is not its strong suit. The lockdown system, they did try something a little bit cute, like what we saw in the Dame 3s there. So it's not on the upper itself, but rather it has a wraparound lace loop that tries to help you lock things down a little bit. But here's the thing about Under Armour. The Curry's 4s, they've had an issue of this little toe area would just cut into your feet, and the lace loops, the lacing system, for some reason, if they're too tight, they might really drill into you like that. That's the feeling you get, and that I had that pinching sensation on certain parts of the lace loops. They could have made it a little bit smoother than to have clumps of stitches here that really kind of like does this to your foot. So that's a little disappointing. The weight of it is also another issue. Lightweight Under Armour performance, like the Curry 4s, they weigh about 320 grams for a size 9.5. For a size 9.5, this weighs 100 grams more. It's 420. So the thing about, there are other shoes that actually weigh in close to 500 grams and they feel that heavy, if not heavier. And there are some shoes that supposedly the scale shows 500 grams or over 400, but it feels lighter than that. Unfortunately, I have to say this actually feels as heavy, if not heavier, than what the digits tell on the scale. So it's not really a lightweight performance. But let's go to the upside of the shoe. The cushioning is, I think, by far the best basketball shoe cushioning they've had for Under Armour. So, yeah. They actually implemented, as you can tell, this little mesh net material that signifies hover cushioning. The little dots, of course, represent micro G. The micro G is good. It feels like the micro G that they use that's plush, like the earlier models when they've had the signature shoes for Brendan Jennings and whatnot, when Curry did not have his name embedded on the shoes, but they did produce shoes for Curry, like the Clutch Fit Drive and whatnot. Curry shoes got harder once they crossed over to Anatomic Spawn, which was the first shoe that was designed for Curry. That was rigid. I mean, it had micro G, but it was not as soft as micro G's found in the models before that. So this is classic micro G that feels soft, softer than, as soft if not softer than the ones that I felt in the Spawn Low 2. It's good. You can actually feel it. Curry 7 was a good departure in terms of the rigidity that most Curry series had, but Curry 7 had a good heel cushion, very minimal forefoot cushion, but there's still a little bit of a cushioning there compared to previous Curry models. Curry 6 actually had a more plush forefoot cushioning, which supposedly featured hover. So Curry, the Currys, if you're going to get the best of both worlds, the best forefoot cushioning for Curry 6 forefoot cushioning is good, but the heel cushioning was mediocre, and it was very flat, and it did not have a heel to toe drop, which made the shoe a little bit dangerous. It felt a little bit dangerous. And then the Curry 7, they had a clear heel to toe drop with a significantly improved heel cushioning that's good for shock absorption and a plush feeling, but it's not too high off the ground, but it's higher than the forefoot. But on the forefoot, it was very minimal. It was very much dependent on a very excellent insole they use for the Under Armours. Speaking of insoles, Under Armour has always been using this peculiar, unique blend of EVA and PU. It's not EVA, it's not PU, it's definitely not as airy as Ortholite, but I love the insoles they provide in Under Armour. I think this is the best insole in terms of the standard insoles that's issued of all the brands out there. Maybe they could make it a little bit thicker, but this is basically 30% of the cushioning that was felt in the Curry 4s. The Curry 4s had basically very minimal thin EVA foam and this insole to go with it. So once this insole starts stinking down or bottoming out a little bit, you feel that Curry 4s are pretty rigid. And this already has a very good cushioning. Even without the insoles, you can actually feel the cushioning that's better than the Curry 4s or even the Curry 7s. So with this insole combined with this cushioning setup, it's a very soft, plush ride. But of course, you can't really. This is when the standard that's being compared to are the previous Curry models or the previous Under Armour basketball shoes, which they're not exactly renowned for comfort and shock absorption or cushioning. They're more about low to the ground, minimal cushioning. So this is a big departure from traditional Under Armour basketball shoes. So if you're looking for that, and speaking of the fit, if you're used to the Under Armour fit, good for you. For me, I always had a problem with the Under Armour shoes because somehow they were either a little bit weirdly narrow, like they had a bit of a banana curl here where they kind of shaved into your pinky toes, or they've had a little bit of too much room on the toe box. So it was a catch-22. Either I have excess room on the toe box, but a roomy fit on the width, or I have a scratchy blister producing narrow fit, but sufficient lockdown on the toe box area. For Under Armour, for the embiid one, it's not very different, far off from the previous Under Armour models. Every Curry's I've had, I had to go up at least half a size. The Curry 7, I had to go up a whole size because it was really narrow and tight. For the embiid ones, I went up half a size. Some people say you should even go down half a size, but that's for people who actually find PG4s to be a good solid fit, when most people go up a size or even a size and a half up for the PG4s. So if you have a really super narrow fit, you can go true to size, and if you have a really narrow super narrow feet and you want really form-fitting shoes and you don't wear any kind of braces or thick socks, you can even go down half a size, but I would very much not recommend it. But if you have a regular Joe foot like me that needs to go up half a size for super narrow shoes like the Kyrie's 1 through 4 or many of the Kobe 80 models or the PG4s, that's crazy narrow, you actually have to go up a whole size, then I would advise going half a size up. But of course, try yourself and make the decision yourself. You need to conduct a little bit of a self-analysis to see what fits and what doesn't in terms of the size, going up half a size, going true to size, going down half a size. I would seriously advise against going down half a size. I would say true to size for average Joes. I would say half a size up for average Joes, true to size for those with really narrow fit.